Canadiens. What a game. A 3-2 performance in Chicago, spoiling yet another team's home opener, just as they did on Thursday in Detroit, as Montreal opens up with 3 straight road games and brings home 4 out of a possible 6 points. Welcome to the live show. We've got lots of live Q&A we want to get to. Before we get to that, big shout out to our friends at cheapesttshirts.ca. It's a locally owned company. They got premium apparel brands like American Apparel. You've got Russell Athletic, and on we go. Order today, ship today, deliver tomorrow, no minimum orders, and they are locally owned and a big friend to the Starr and D'Amico show. And, of course, Catherine Prince, CatherinePrince.ca. Her first name is spelled with the letter K. Buying or selling your home, check out Catherine Prince. And, of course, McLean's Pub. We've got free tickets to give away. We have Morella's gift cards to give away. I really want you guys to check out Morella's. It's a beautiful spot, an unbelievable menu, premium cigars, premium wine list. Highway 132 in Ganawage, Morella's Steakhouse.ca, and your chance to win free swag at McLean's October 22nd when you join us live at 1210 Peel Street. Marco, we're very much looking forward to our first ever live show. It's going to be great, and I know a lot of people are going to be there.
I'm looking forward to the chicken tenders.
The butter chicken pizza, maybe?
Butter chicken pizza. Like, just stop. It's 10 o'clock, man. You can't make me hungry. But yes, that's all. I can't wait. Stu, our good friend Stu at McLean's knows exactly how much I love that pizza.
Yeah, you got it. Hey, by the way, we want to do a live Q&A on this show today. So every Sunday at 10 o'clock, you can find D'Amico and Starr here. You got questions about what you've seen, week 1 impressions, how you feel about the Canadiens, 4 points after 6 games. And look, I get it. It wasn't desirable because what? The style points, can I bring a golf analogy to the table for a second? It's the number you put on the scorecard. Doesn't matter how you got there. It's what you did. And the Montreal Canadiens put up a 3-2 win in Chicago in a game that, honestly, brother, when you have 10 power plays, 10 power plays in one game, that game should have been well over before the 15-second marker before Caden Gooley's clapper from the point. So let's before we get into the week, let's talk about why this team on the power play has a lot of talent spread out through 2 different units and why it looks the way it does. What's your early read here?
I mean, I think that the first power play wave was revamped to include Zachary Bolduc on the bumper the way that he was so effective for the St. Louis Blues at the tail end of last year.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the idea here. It's kind of where we're stuck. Where now you look at it, you saw yesterday's game, he factored in on both power play goals. So obviously, if you're Martin St. Louis, you're going to be like, okay, well, no, this is working. Absolutely. And I think that first power play wave is going to be productive one way or the other because you got Laine Hutson, you have Cole Caufield, you have Nick Suzuki. I think that, those 3 are the core of that first wave. They do well. It's the second wave that has me kind of, iffy because on the one end, it's basically the everybody else power play, right? And in my opinion, you're doing Ivan Demidov no favors by putting him on the right circle on a wave where Kirby Dach is in the bumper, right? Because let's call a spade here. Like Kirby Dach is basically, like a decoy in that slot. And really the shooters are Dobson at the point and, if it gets through, Patrick Laine at the left circle. So I just don't feel like the second power play wave is necessarily built for success where the first power play wave is. To me, maybe removing Bolduc. I know he's effective on the first power play wave, but so too was Nick Suzuki in that spot. Putting Bolduc in the bumper on the second wave with a Demidov or Demidov on the first wave, I think it would help get more people going because right now I feel that the power play has kind of been revamped to a degree in order to accommodate certain other players. And to me, I think the biggest thing this team needs, other than getting the power play going, is getting Ivan Demidov going offensively and getting him those puck touches.
100%. And look, you look at the box score from the 3-2 win in Chicago, right? And for the record, like some of the comments coming in, the power play is terrible. The power play is terrible. I mean, let's try not to get too emotional here. The Canadiens have 3 power play goals in 3 games. Let's call it. They scored 2 of them in Chicago, granted, on 10 power play opportunities. But right now they're kind of bunched in with a few different teams that are 12th. Montreal 3 games in is 12th in the NHL on the power play this season. I think, if you just looked at last night's game, you would think that they're probably dead last based on, on how they looked. But it is what it is. They've scored 3 power play goals. They picked up back-to-back dubs after losing the season opener in Toronto. So I don't think the power play looks terrible. I think there needs to be some tweaks. I'd like to see some tweaks ahead of the home opener, against Seattle this week. And don't forget, Starr and D'Amico will be with you live on Wednesday morning at 10:30 to recap that game. We're going to be live after every Montreal Canadiens game. And as usual, your Sunday morning 10 o'clock live show. It goes without saying. But when I looked at that game last night, and it was weird, right? Because you can't really get into a flow. You were always on the power play. And I don't mean this as a disrespectful take to a player who I think is having a very good start is Brendan Gallagher. The fact that Brendan Gallagher had more time on the power play on Saturday night in Chicago than Ivan Demidov, not a fan. And I get, Gallagher has his role, right? And maybe, Marco, it falls into the category of like earning your way up, but Demidov's skill it's there. The way he moves and twists and turns out of protection, the way he can find guys and slow it down. Gallagher has his role, and I think it's more of a north-south role. Demidov's unpredictable, and I'm kind of surprised that the allotment of power play time has looked the way it has. Slafkovsky had like 4 more minutes on the power play than Demidov. I mean, skill's got to recognize skill at some point. That's the first tweak that needs to be made, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the thing with Slafkovsky's minutes, or even the first wave, is that they start, right? So they generally will get a minute plus, right? Yeah. Sometimes you see a minute and a half, and then that second power play wave only has 30 seconds to get to work. So not necessarily ideal in that case. And that's why I was talking about puck touches. It brings me back to last year in the playoffs when Patrick Laine was injured. I thought, when they put Ivan Demidov on the top power play wave, that power play wave moved. And I think that's probably the biggest thing for them is the fact that right now I felt like they were a little stationary. Yeah. But I agree with Chris here, and this is exactly it. This is not new. Martin St. Louis did this with Hutson last year, where he was basically the best thing on the second wave. Once the first wave stopped producing after a certain while, Laine Hutson overtook Mike Matheson in that spot. And I feel like the cream always rises to the top. I don't think that Ivan Demidov, who withstood the benchings of Roman Rottenberg and Ska, I don't think that he's necessarily going to be in a bad situation by slowly getting into it. Of course, fans are going to start getting a little anxious about it because Matthew Schaefer scored his first goal and Shabanov scored his first goal and Brunicki scored his first goal. And all these rookies are scoring their first goals. Beckett Seneca has 2 goals, so I understand looking around and being anxious about it. The only thing I would say is Demidov is being brought along in a certain way. And I'm not defending Martin St. Louis, but he's bringing him around in a certain way that would make him have to outwork anybody else in a top 6 setting. And again, I feel like Ivan Demidov's utilization at 5-on-5 is hampered significantly by the fact that they don't have a bona fide top 6 center that they could stick him with that would allow for that player to cover for Demidov and allow him to express himself more offensively.
We could talk about the power play and why it looked the way it did yesterday in a game, that they win 3-2 with 2 of the goals coming via the power play. But watching that game, and it was fun interacting, Marco, with a bunch of Canadian fans on Twitter yesterday. Lots of fun as always, good engagement. And as I wrote, that app can still be fun sometimes, even though there's a lot of other things out there that make it rather interesting and dodgy sometimes. But the thought crossed my mind. Obviously, they have snipers on the flank, Cole Caufield, Patrick Laine, the vision of Demidov. I don't like Slafkovsky's role in the power play. I've been beating this drum since game 1. I want more middle of the ice. I want more middle of the ice dominance. And
where was Slafkovsky on that Caden Gooley goal?
And voila. And it was funny because, we all made that observation, and it was nice. Francois Gagnon from RDS quote tweeted to me. He's like, he should be on there in the power play. I'm like, You need to listen to the Starr and D'Amico show. We've been beating this drum since the beginning of the season, even in the preseason, right? When these guys, really don't have a lot of time to work on the man advantage. But the thought that crossed my mind was this: even with the shots on the flank, I was like, what else could they do? What else do they need to make it a little bit more predictable? We haven't seen Noah Dobson run this yet. Like his shot, I still think they need to keep the forecheckers on the PK honest by having a big shot from the point. And that's not Laine Hutson. That's not his game. I think Noah Dobson has it.
So where I kind of agree here is this is why I believe having Noah Dobson on the same power play wave as Zachary Bolduc would be lethal. Because if you have a shooting threat in the bumper, well, then the four PKers are going to play tighter in the middle and allow you to kind of roam on the perimeter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, if you're Noah Dobson, who does that open up a passing option to? Patrick Laine, right?
Yeah.
And so that's right now when you have Kirby Dach there, no one believes that Kirby Dach is going to be a shooting threat in the bumper. Yeah. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful to the player. He just doesn't have that skill set. Whereas if you were to remove Bolduc, even though I think Bolduc is excellent and has been excellent, I feel like he can be excellent even on a second power play wave. And there's no need to panic. Of course not. They have 2 wins and 1 loss.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I think needs to happen is that you need to put players, you don't need to necessarily put the best players on the first power play wave, because I think that Bolduc deserves to be there. But I think you would need to put the right elements there. And so to me, I think he's perfect in the bumper, but I think that Demidov at the right circle on the first power play wave would be more effective. And then you can slide Kirby Dach to the right circle on the second power play wave where he belongs. And that opens up Kirby Dach to multiple passing options, such as Noah Dobson, such as Zach Bolduc, and such as Patrick Laine. And then you have Gallagher there, for puck recuperation and being able to go into the corners. And I feel like it would flow a lot better that way. But again, we're talking about this as the Canadiens scored 2 times out of 10. So that's 20%. That's a pretty good ratio.
But that game should have been over Saturday night, man. It should have been over way earlier than it was. At the end of the day, law of averages, man.
A better structured power play wave, the two of them, would have finished that game in the second period. Yes. Yeah, they won. Fair. They still won. But I think it's interesting that you see these elements at 5-on-5 of how players are good at what they do at 5-on-5, to not utilize them in, a penalty, like a power play setting in the same function. It's inconsistent to me. So I'd be very interested to see how Martin St. Louis goes about, remodeling this a little bit.
100%. I want to get to, because I've seen a lot, and, friend to the show, Ethan Mods here, right? Weighs in with his own opinion about the power play, loading up on it. And to me, the main takeaway, and I want to get into this for a second here, is the perception that Laine Hutson's game is suffering and it's off at the start of the season. Why? Why is that opinion out there, right? He's got 1 point after 3 games, okay? And I don't think, and I don't believe this. Feel free to weigh in on the comments with your own point of view. And it's not the contract. It's not the ongoing negotiations. And I know on Hockey Night in Canada during the second intermission, Elliot Friedman, who's widely respected in this business, brought to the table that the Hutson camp, the Canadiens, they have decided to take it out of the public eye, his words, right? They're going to keep it really in-house, loose lips, sink ships. And again, if you've been around the game for a minute, you don't have to be employed by the National Hockey League or a team in this league to know that that's how negotiations go. You want to leak stuff to people that you trust in order to better your own situation. It's on both sides of the equation. And as usual, Marco, as you know, the truth lies somewhere in the middle where the compromise ultimately will be made. But when I watch 48, when I see him through 3 games, I still see a guy with the shake and bake, making guys miss, bursts of speed, walking the line on the power play. Fine, the points haven't translated. He has 1 after 3 games on a team that got 12 guys were on the score sheet in Detroit. Yeah. They've got 4 guys that are point a game. So the depth is there, but I just don't see it. I don't believe that the contract and the back and forth and the public scrutiny, why hasn't he, blah, 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 blah. I do not believe that's affected his game. What are you seeing from 48 that you're on social media? I mean, you see it, man. People are like, oh, maybe this is why, this is why, this is why. Where do you? I mean, that's such an easy answer, no?
I mean, I don't necessarily think he's playing worse. I just think the teams know how to better play against him now that it's an extra year that
Yeah.
they have tape now. I think that's the biggest thing with rookies, and that's where the sophomore slump kind of comes from. In your first season, no one really knows how to defend you. There's not enough tape on you, right? But what I know is that a lot of teams now have Laine Hutson at the top of their strategy to play against the Montreal Canadiens. So they're naturally playing him tougher. They're pushing him a little bit more aggressively along the boards. They're crashing and banging. They're doing this. They're doing that. But at 5-on-5, I think the biggest difference now is the fact that the top minute munchers are Dobson and Matheson, and they play more often than not with the top line, something that Laine Hutson did more of last year at 5-on-5. So if you've removed him from playing with the top line, which is the most productive line, generally speaking, yeah, I won't comment on family, but I think that that's where the points went or haven't been there, is that the first line hasn't been as dominant. I think I think at the end of the day, that's where his offense is going. Now, it's the defensive side of things that I want to see a little bit more attention to. And I think obviously that'll happen as he continues to see tape and they work on that. But I just felt like he's getting a little bit roughed up. They're playing him a whole lot tighter than they did last year. And I think that's the key. But last night, Laine Hutson could have had a couple of assists. He was the fourth man on the Caufield goal. So I'm not necessarily worried about Laine Hutson, but I just think that any misstep in the memory of how Laine Hutson finished last season will automatically make you think that perhaps the contract is what's weighing him down. When, in my honest opinion, I think it has more to do with other teams knowing how to play him better.
The Montreal Canadiens' depth has flexed, in my point of view, through 3 games, right? I referenced the 12 points, 12 players with at least a point in the win in Detroit. You're seeing Nick Suzuki doesn't have a goal, but he's got 5 assists. Cole Caufield's got 3 points. Guys are looking good. And obviously, to me, leading the charge is Zachary Bolduc, who they got in the Logan Mailloux transaction from the St. Louis Blues. This is the type of player, that I've always liked since I was a little boy growing up watching this game. I love guys who have almost like a fearless approach, no flybys with this young man, crash and bang, gets to the net, can score from various points in the offensive zone. And the St. Louis Blues made a decision. Is it because they love right-handed defensemen? Is it Snuffleupagus there, Jimmy Snuggerud? What is it that maybe gave this green light go, right? A surplus of talent in St. Louis. And Jeff Gordon's words after they got bounced in 5 games by the Capitals last spring about getting guys with more grit, more dog in them. I mean, Zachary Bolduc is a multi-box checker outside of the goals, is he not? The goals are great, but let's talk about the finer points of Bolduc's 3-game debut with the Canadiens.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that the Canadiens were looking for last year was just improving the amount of people that they have in their lineup that could shoot from the left and shoot efficiently from the left. For the longest time, all they had was Slafkovsky. Now they have Ivan Demidov and they have Zachary Bolduc. The two play very contrasting games, which is why I think that eventually they should be playing together. But when you look at the way that Bolduc attacks the middle of the ice, it's exactly what the Canadiens were missing. That 1F, that guy that you're able to have in the slot that's able to get free, but it's also able to bring the puck to the net and play around the crease. And I think that element is one of the reasons why the Canadiens zeroed in on a guy like Zachary Bolduc. And remember, the Blues did not want to trade him, but the Canadiens had more than one team interested in Logan Mailloux, and they wanted to make a move at that point because they wanted to improve their top 6, or at least their middle 6. And finally, the Blues called, around the 11th hour and said, fine, we'll do it. We'll give you Bolduc. And that is how the cookie crumbled. And I think it's crumbling quite well for the Montreal Canadiens right now. I think he brings that element that has many people, I've seen the comments in this chat, projecting him as a top 6 player for the Montreal Canadiens for a very, very long time. And I think, like you pointed out before, he's got the tools. And again, like, this isn't to say that the Canadiens like hoodwinked the Blues and Mayu is not worth anything. Of course not. When you trade a forward for a defenseman, unless you're the Montreal Canadiens with Jonathan Drouin, generally speaking, the forward is going to look better than the younger defenseman off the hop. It's where they're going to be in 3 years from now. That's my take. But Bolduc has been, to me, he's been that, how do you say? He's been the fire starter, right?
Oh,
he's the guy that kind of pulls you into the fight. And honestly, I don't know if it's his effect or just a combination of circumstance, but I feel like he's like reignited the fire in Brendan Gallagher on that line. Those two together have been really fun to watch.
John's joining us from 2007, I think.
Yeah, that joke was old in 2007.
Yes. Thank you very much.
I love it, though. I love it.
And again, like, I don't want this to be like a Sunday morning overreaction show after 3 games, right? I mean, there's going to be plenty of time to, perhaps overreact after the 20-game sample size has come and gone. But, I saw a lot of those comments about, how quickly do you make a move, right? And please send in your questions. I've already more or less put a bunch aside. We want to dip into some Q&A, a live Q&A later this morning. And like I said, I put a bunch aside. But you've got questions, observations, things you want to point out that D'Amico and Starr can react to. Send them in the live chat. We're monitoring it, so we're going to be able to put that aside. But 3 games in, Oliver Kapanen has obviously made a nice impression, doing his best Mark Messier, sniping from the off wing there and looking pretty good in doing that. But there's going to come a point in time where Martin St. Louis is going to have to make a decision because, Demidov needs more skill. I think he needs more skill around him. And as much as I like Kapanen, I'm not on the Grant McCagg bandwagon. When it comes to a 2C of the future, I think he's a better version of Jake Evans, and I mean that with respect. I think he's a more skilled guy, but he's a very smart hockey player, Kapanen, but I don't see a guy that's going to be running a second line. And that, to me, is something that I'm going to be paying close attention to as we get to the benchmarks, because 3 games is not the mark where we can okay, it's time, MSL. You got to make a move. You got to change this, got to put it in the blender and do this. We're not there yet. 20 games, we're going to be there. So what do you see about rounding out skill, maximizing the efforts here of number 93?
I would still like to see a line where Zachary Bolduc and Ivan Demidov play together. I think ultimately you talk about a combination left shot to left shot, so those passes will be crisp. Zachary Bolduc goes to the net, one-timer, has the elements to complete the plays and has the hockey IQ to follow the play that a guy like Demidov would set up. And there's been a lot of times over the last 3 games where Demidov would shift a guy out and then have the opportunity to make a quick pass into the slot that either Kapanen, whiffs on, or that Alex Newhook can't get to in time, right? There's just something off in terms of the synergy, right? Where I feel like a guy like Bolduc reads a play so efficiently. You saw that goal that he scored against Detroit. He read exactly what Gallagher was going to do before Gallagher even did it. That kind of hockey IQ is what you would want around a guy like Ivan Demidov. And he's also a crash and banger, and he's got a really good shot. So
yeah.
To me, I think the combination makes sense. Now it's who do you put in the middle? Right? And I think ultimately that's the problem.
We're still here.
Do you put Kapanen there? I think that would be a prime opportunity to put Demidov with Doc and Bolduc. But Bolduc combination with Brendan Gallagher has worked so well at 5-on-5. How do you warrant splitting that up? Because ultimately, for me, the way that this lineup has been put together has been to accommodate having Patrick Laine in it, to the detriment, in my honest opinion, of Ivan Demidov's utilization at 5-on-5. And to me, personally, I think the priority for this organization is not to get Patrick Laine going, but to get Ivan Demidov to continue to grow and grow and grow, because that's your future franchise player. Patrick Laine is probably not coming back to the Montreal Canadiens next year. So you have to make a priority call and you have to utilize a consequence. So that to me is where it is, because one of the things that I do not think the Montreal Canadiens are going to be able to afford to do long term is that fourth line is usually their shutdown line, right? The Gallagher, Anderson, Evans. That combination is seen as their shutdown line now that Dvorak is gone. Okay, well, in that absence and having Patrick Laine on that fourth line, who has been tasked on the road with shutting down the opposition? The Canadiens' top line.
Yeah, that's right.
And to me, that's not sustainable. You cannot have your top line try to shut down and score when you're trying to create some sort of momentum, which is the reason why a lot of people feel like, I haven't seen Nick Suzuki that much. Yeah, well, it's because he's being very efficient in shutting down the opposition at 5-on-5, and that was something that we kind of hoped that further depth in the lineup would alleviate from his plate. Fortunately, not the case so far. So there's still opportunities to fine tune.
I don't know, man. I don't know what they're going to do with Patrick Laine. And again, I don't want to overreact. It's 3 games in, but if we're talking, when we referenced Laine Hutson's game, minutes ago, and maybe some look at 48's performance. Is he forcing it? Is he lacking confidence? Is he bothered by the ongoing negotiations that are public? Patrick Laine to me looks like a guy very much who's forcing things, who's trying extra hard, maybe not, cliche speak, not letting the game come to him. And he needs a goal. He needs a goal to get those good vibes going, to feel good about his game, because right now, I mean, the passing game is not there. He created 2 egregious turnovers. Nice to see Charlie hustle, Ivan Demidov, where, you wondered about his defense. I mean, in Chicago, Demidov was, I thought, very good in terms of a 200-foot game. He was in the corners. He was mucking it up with Bedard. He was great on a back check. Moved the puck, evaded guys, certainly in the offensive zone. But focus on Patrick Laine for a second, playing over 13 minutes. He only has 4 shots on goal. At the sake of repeating ourselves, if he's not being fed pucks on the power play, he's not a 5-on-5 guy. He was a little bit of a liability yesterday. And I saw when the first power play got going, they started with the second unit because the first line had just come off the ice. They were a bit gassed, but man, oh man, they're trying to feed this guy and trying to get him going. I don't disagree with it, but he's a mystery box, man. I don't know if anybody has the answer other than the player himself.
Yeah, I mean, look, I still don't believe that second power play wave is necessarily being used to the best of its ability. We talked about this at the top, so I'll just kind of leave it there. What I would say, though, when it pertains to Patrick Laine, is I feel like the Canadiens, again, are trying to accommodate him, and it's coming at the expense of certain other players, notably Ivan Demidov. And I think ultimately you're going to have to make a decision by the 10-game mark, because you can't afford to see an Ivan Demidov stagnate. You really cannot. And you brought it up yesterday. I think those are the kind of points that he's going to get, Demidov, that I think are going to help him in Martin St. Louis' eyes, being physically engaged, being defensively engaged. And, I know he didn't catch up to the biggest speedster in the NHL, but he caught up, he muscled him off the puck. And that's saying something, because that was one tough customer. He muscled off the puck. I think when it comes to Laine's game, it's, as long as he doesn't hurt the team at 5-on-5, which he hasn't, he's actually shown good effort in that regard when it comes to being able to play at 5-on-5 and at least not being a defensive liability. The issue that I have with him is the offensive creativity. The puck, every time the puck is on a stick in the offensive zone and he's in movement, he'll lose it. And that is problematic. That is me. That is my mind saying, okay, well, this is a finisher. He shouldn't be the play driver. Who on that line that he's playing in is going to be able to assist him in that? Certainly isn't Josh Anderson, and Jake Evans has a job to do defensively. So I think it's a mismatch there, because they're trying to, on the road without the last change, shelter Patrick Laine. Well, now that the Canadiens have a couple of games at home coming up this week, I'd like to see if they can perhaps tweak, maybe put Gallagher back on the fourth, put Demidov back on the second with Bolduc and Doc, and then have Laine with a guy that can cover for him defensively, like an Alex Newhook and a Oliver Kapanen. And I think that would make more balanced sense, and everybody would kind of have defined roles. But again, I understand Martin St. Louis also not wanting to break a winning habit. So this is the odd situation that you're in a regular season, especially as you start, where you see a problematic trend, but the team is also winning. So you have to make a call there. Not an easy one to make if you're Martin St. Louis.
The Montreal Canadiens begin a 4-game homestand. Their season opener at long last is upon us on Tuesday this week. 7 p.m. puck drop at home to Seattle. Thursday, they host Nashville. It's a New York Rangers Montreal Canadiens showdown on a Saturday night. And it wraps up with the Monday night tilt, the dreaded 7:30 puck drop against the Buffalo Saberinos, who finally scored a goal this season. Congratulations to everybody cheering for Buffalo. Welcome to the 30-minute marker of the live Sunday show every Sunday at 10 a.m. D'Amico and Starr with you. And don't forget, we'll be live after every Montreal Canadiens game. And with that being said, join us on October 22nd ahead of the Habs and Flames game from McLean's Pub, 1210 Peel Street. We've got lots of giveaways, including tickets to a Montreal Canadian game in the Reds with the first round, courtesy of our friends at McLean's. Big thanks to Sammy and Stu and Jim and the whole wonderful staff at McLean's. You're home away from home for all Montreal Canadiens games. We have gift cards to give away thanks to our friends at Morella's Steakhouse, morellasteakhouse.ca, where you can reserve your table now, Highway 132 in Ganawage. And big shout out, as always, to our friends at cheapesttshirts.ca. So let's get to a little bit of questions here. Marco, you down to hear from the viewers this morning? Keep sending your questions in. We're monitoring them. We're going to be able to put some of the better ones aside, but I want to get to as many as possible. Let's put this one up because we're talking about the power play, right? The Canadiens are right now 12th in the National Hockey League after 3 games on the PP. They scored twice in a 3-2 win in Chicago. They have 3 power play goals in 3 games. But I get it. It should be better than what you saw in Chicago. Yeah. What do you think is the most ideal power play line? Let's start there. You're going to throw out your top 5 guys.
Hutson, Demidov, Caufield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky. That's my power play line 1. Yeah. Power play line 2, Dobson, Laine, Doc, Bolduc, Brendan Gallagher.
Yes. I'm on board. The only change I would make to Marco's top 5 is, I know I'm going to get killed for this. I want Dobson at the point on the first wave of the power play. I want that shot. I want that size. And I'm all about getting someone to the middle. And, Uri Slafkovsky, who I get is ill. Uri Slafkovsky statistically is elite at a couple of different things. Is digging pucks out of the corner and tip drills in front of the net. And yeah, we take you back to Saturday night, the Caden Gooley shot with 15 seconds to go. There he was, big Slafkovsky there, right? More of that is required. But I still think in order to get this power play going, I think they need that extra shot at the point, and I think Noah Dobson has it right now over Laine Hutson. But again, they have so much skill, and that's why, I legitimately believe they can have 2 number 1 power play units with extreme skill. Hutson on the second wave, to me, is not a disrespectful move, but that's the only change I would make to that.
Yeah, I've thought about it today, just because, would that work? How would that concept be? Because really the wave, the first power play wave as it is, the biggest weakness that it has is that Laine Hutson is not seen as a shooting threat. So if you're a penalty killer and you know that, you're going to play higher in that regard, right? And the reason why I believe the Montreal Canadiens had success yesterday is because that was happening, but they had Zach Bolduc in the bumper to take advantage of that extra space that they were affording them because they were playing higher in their defensive coverage.
Yeah,
because it opens up the middle of the ice. So I understand the Canadian strategy in that regard. I just feel like with Noah Dobson, it could work because he's got a cannon himself. It's just more like, who's going to tee him up?
Yeah.
Is it Caufield along the boards? Right? Because Caufield literally plays glued almost back to the boards sometimes.
I know.
And so that tee off might be a little difficult, but it is a right shot to a right shot. So functionally wise, it could work.
Yeah.
But statistically, you'd be taking away the shooting option that is Cole Caufield by doing that. So I enjoy where Dobson is on the second wave. and Demidov trying to find him, those two work together well. I feel like Kirby Dach would probably be in a better situation to feed a guy like Dobson. But what I feel like Dobson needs is another shooting threat in the middle. And that's why I think a second power play wave that has Bolduc, that has Dobson, that has Laine, and that has a Brendan Gallagher with a playmaker like Kirby Dach, you're putting everybody in the right chair.
Rod Langway fan club, what a do, Rod. If Laine can't bring it on the power play, Joe Veleno more a useful player at this point. I wonder how much time Marty will give him. I think that's a money question. I think everybody is wondering the same thing. I still believe that Laine needs that goal to get the mojo going, but Joe Veleno's not on the power play here. Patrick Laine has the skill. He's got the office. He has one of the most potent shots in the National Hockey League. And I don't know when Joe Veleno is going to get in, but I don't think Joe Veleno is the answer to the Patrick Laine problem, in all honesty.
No. But in terms of like all game settings, I get the point that's being made here. Like, he would be a better impact to the game overall, not on the power play, just at 5-on-5 and in general, I think would be a better fit on that fourth line. I think I agree with that point. But the thing is goals are worth their weight, in gold. And if you have the option of getting a Patrick Laine going, that's an interesting proposition for Martin St. Louis, especially with the sample size that he had last year. So I get what's happening, but I also agree with fan club over here where I say, okay, but you're going to get into a point soon where the Canadiens may want to have a guy like Veleno kind of come in and get his reps in and play those kinds of minutes. And he also offers them other benefits. Can play on the PK, right? Could be used up and down the lineup, is a left shot center, so they could take left draws. There are multiple layers of benefit, even though he's not the same level of offensive player as Patrick Laine. So I get the idea. I think the Canadiens are going to give up too soon on this situation. But like we talked about before, it's going to be interesting to see how he's utilized at home now that they're at home for 4 games and have the benefit of the last change.
Beer is fun. There's one of my favorite usernames I've seen in a long time. Beer definitely can be fun.
Good.
What's up, Andy? Thanks for the comment today. Let's talk about Laine Hutson trying way too hard to make something happen, forcing things almost every shift, needs to let the game come to him for a bit. I see the same version of Laine Hutson as I watched last year. Confidence, shake and bake, making guys miss. They let him, when they were on the power play Saturday night in Chicago, they more or less let Laine Hutson do what he wants to do, whether he sees an opening or he wants to do the drop back pass. I like that they have 2 guys now in the drop back. It makes it a little bit less predictable, but the full confidence of the guys in front of him, they let Laine do what he wants to do. He's earned that respect because of what he did last year. He just looks the same to me because he's a little water bug. He's all over the place, but the points haven't translated as much as maybe you would like them to. That's my read. Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, so we talked about it. Last year he played, almost religiously at the same time as the top line.
Yeah.
And so like the top line had a significant percentage of the goals scored for the Montreal Canadiens last year. And Laine Hutson figured in on, I believe, something close to 30% of their total offense. So it's not by chance that he was with them at 5-on-5 and on the power play, and they were firing on all cylinders last year. It's been a little bit calmer, and we talked about it. It's the top line was being used as a shutdown line at the same time as an offensive line. But again, yes, I think teams have tape on Hutson, know how to play him, have strategies built around him, and now it's going to be up to the player to be able to diversify or improve his game to be able to go and play his game above that coverage. And that's normal. It's what every sophomore goes through. So I really wouldn't worry about that. I think that his hockey IQ is so elite, in my honest opinion, that he'll find a way to tweak his game in consequence.
Lots of comments on Patrick Laine. Obviously, I get it.
Yeah.
But I also want to address goaltending here. As Sammy points out, good morning, Sammy. Thank you. Your thoughts on the goaltending? I think Jakub Dobeš is the better goalie. Now, to each their own, right? I mean, Dobeš has allowed 1 goal against through the preseason and his 1 start, right? And look, let's call it here. Sam Montembeault, who I thought had outstanding rebound control in the third period when Chicago had a little bit more sustained pressure. He was sucking those pucks in. I thought his positioning was a little tighter. But ultimately, it was the right call to go back to Monty on Saturday night in Chicago. He is the team's number one. This is not a platoon. This is not a goalie controversy. I don't have a problem with the way things are going right now. And look, the two goals he got scored on, right? One was the Snipe City goal. Great shot. I don't know what goaltender stopping that one. And the other was the bullshit Arbor Jackeye penalty. It was such a bad penalty. And the puck goes off Connor Bedard's hockey pants.
This is a family-friendly show, Shaun.
Oh, it's Sunday morning.
Words like that.
Shame on me. Shame on me. But the hockey pants goal
I agree.
on the power play, like that's not I'm not here for a goalie controversy 3 games in when both goals were like not Montembeault's fault here.
No, and I think he shut it down real good in the third period as well.
Yeah.
Look, guys, I think it's a great problem to have. And I've said this before and I'll say it again.
Agreed.
I'll say it before and I'll say it again. If Dobeš can play 27 to 30 games this season and really take the load off of Montembeault, I think it's a very interesting proposition as he continues to develop as well, but also for the team dynamic, because then you can, if they're marching into the playoffs, Samuel Montembeault isn't doing so on a walking stick because he's so exhausted like last year where he played 62 games. They could bring it down to maybe like 55 games. I think we're in business.
Yeah.
And especially with all the back-to-backs they have this season, they have 16 back-to-backs. You're going to need 2 strong goalies. You're going to need that tandem. So the one thing that this says to me is if anything happens to Montembeault from a health perspective, the Canadiens are in good hands with Jakub Dobeš.
Let's keep the questions coming. It's the live Q&A on the Sunday show. Don't forget, join us at McLean's October 22nd, the live version of Starr and D'Amico at McLean's October 22nd from 7 to 8. Great prizes to give away. Looking forward to meeting many of you in person. Alex Gagne wants to know when we think Struble or Joe Veleno come into play. I was thinking about this a bunch of times, more about Jaden Struble than Joe Veleno personally. I think Arbor Jackeye gets the home opener just out of respect. And I expect to see Jaden Struble at some point this week in one of the 4 games.
Same.
I'd like to see him because, listen, Arbor Jackeye is getting the fewest minutes of anybody on this team. For those that have watched regularly, as much as I like what Arbor Jackeye brings in terms of physicality and an element to the defensive core that nobody else really can bring, I'm not the biggest Arbor Jackeye defender in his own end. I think right now Jaden Struble probably is the better overall player than Arbor Jackeye, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think he gets in before Joe Veleno. I think he plays the Nashville game. Your reaction?
I don't necessarily disagree with the take.
I
will say one thing though. Watching Caden Gooley delivering hits yesterday was cathartic. And the fact that it was against Frank Nazar, who has, in my opinion, been Chicago's best player to start the season, was cherry on the sundae. And then watching him have to defend himself, which I found to be an absolute waste of time on Chicago's end, but having him defend himself, in this kind of a situation and come out on the winning side of that fight, I thought was excellent. So I don't think it's just Arbor Jackeye that can play that physical. It's Caden Gooley can more than hold his own. He just has to stay healthy to be able to do that. So I'm okay with the idea that the Canadiens have a seven defenseman bottom pair rotation, because I think everyone can agree with this. I don't think this is a hot take. Alex Carrier has been steady since the start of the season.
Good word.
So it doesn't really matter who you play with him. And I think that's fantastic for 2 young defensemen trying to get their footing in the NHL. I think Struble gets in at some point this week. When it comes to Veleno, I think it all depends on if the team is healthy, A, and B, what they decide to do with Patrick Laine. I think it comes down to that.
Good morning, Lucy. What, dude? Remember, Chicago was a freaking yard sale, and Detroit was a yard sale. I don't think it's normal. I think it's standing out more than ever to me. Exploding sticks is Lucy's question.
The old Italian man inside me was
tomatoes.
like,
tomatoes.
We can use those for the tomatoes.
Correct. My grandfather used to do that and bro, sometimes I would have sticks that weren't broken, but I had like 5 or 6 of them, and he would take them and put them in our garden for holding up the tomato plants, and I'm not even Italian.
Yep. I still do it to this day. I'll take a picture of my backyard for you guys.
I love it.
The idea is these sticks are being put to the test. Some of them, obviously, the moment you start getting into these carbon fiber sticks and a lot of that, yes, they have the flex in them, but it is known that they're a little bit more fragile and easier to break in consequence because of the shaft of the stick isn't what it used to be. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So yeah, it's a little bit normal. These guys are going hard. They're playing, they're taking shots. These players are bigger, faster, stronger than they've ever been. You're going to see exploding sticks. And it wasn't even last night's game only. It's something I've noticed since the beginning of the season. Is just like sticks exploding everywhere. But I mean, good stick companies are going to be very happy because that just means more and more. But in all seriousness, I think one of the best parts of the game has been how technology in the game has evolved.
No doubt.
So, the way that sticks have evolved has been really fun to watch. This is the one thing that worries me is that, look at the Canadiens in game 1 against the Leafs, right? 2 sticks, 1 stick explodes and
Dobson
Laine Hutson
twice.
loses. And then Laine Hutson loses his stick and everyone's off to the races, So it creates unfortunate situations like that. So something to watch. And I think, if this continues to be a trend, there may be some customer success agents that will be notified about improving their product's delivery.
Danny, thanks, Danny, for the question.
Let's talk. Tough one.
No kidding. I mean, obviously the kid's on a heater, right? Can't miss. He's still on pace for 82 goals after 3 games. Zach Bolduc season 60, 70, 80 point player. I think
ceiling is tough.
I mean, I do, and I've said this for a while, and I know Marco could back me up here. Zach Bolduc, to me, has the makings all day, every day. It's not a hot take. He's a top 6 player right now. Can he be a point-a-game player with someone like Demidov on his line? I believe he can because I believe in Demidov that much. The question is, who's the middleman there? Who's going to be the middleman that facilitates Demidov's skill set and Zachary Bolduc? But to me, I am ready all day right now. I want to see Bolduc. I want to see Doc. I want to see Demidov, and I want to see them for a sample size. And I think, he's somewhere in that 60 to 80 point range player to me. And maybe with Demidov as a point a game guy.
I've always compared his impact to the Montreal Canadiens since he was traded for, as something that would be kind of similar to the way that Brendan Hagel plays in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Without playing with Kucherov or without playing with Point, I feel like a guy like Brendan Hagel on a normal team would be a 65, 70 point player. That's where I think a guy like Bolduc can range in his peak years is the 60 to 70 point range. There may be an outlier year where he hits point per game because he's playing with a superstar in the making that could potentially hit his stride as well in Ivan Demidov. So there's always, aspects. I mean, I don't think anybody thought that Zach Hyman was going to score 50 goals, but when you're playing next to Connor McDavid, chances are a little higher. So, that's the kind of impact that you have. So that's the way I see it. But it's the style of player that I like. He has translatable, repeatable offense. And I think that's the difference. His offense is consistent because everything that he does, the habits that he has, are just all lined up for success in the NHL. I knew this was coming. I'm a duck out.
Hey, listen. I mean, these stupid Penguins here. We need the Penguins to start losing some hockey games here. They're 2-1 and also have 4 points. They haven't scored a lot of goals though, but it was nice to see Malkin and Crosby, vintage Malkin and Crosby, the other night. That was nice.
Well, and it was fun to see Kindell score his first goal in the NHL last night as well. A lot of first goals in the NHL last night.
I know.
So it has been fun watching some of these young players. But yeah, the more the Penguins win, the funnier this gets.
I know. I agree. But I don't want to laugh about this anymore. I want them to lose. So Malkin can put his hand up first, and then Crosby can follow and come to the Montreal Canadiens. What's up, JGH, proud member of the show? Wants to know if Slafkovsky will be better in a line that crashes and bangs. Obviously, that would be the removal of him from the Caufield Suzuki first line unit here.
I could see why one would want to do that. I mean, that's the reason why they lined him up, I believe, at certain points last year with Kirby Dach to add that element to his line. But I feel like his physical attributes and his play along the boards is just so essential to the synergy of that top line that I really wouldn't separate them unless there was something like his play really dipped. Because when he's on, he's looked like one of the more impactful players for the Montreal Canadiens. And it's from his habits, it's from his style. I remember yesterday just like him battling against the boards, getting the pass and just tip shotting it straight to down the middle, and Cole Caufield and Nick Suzuki are off to the races on a 2-on-1. Like those little details that he's able to execute along the boards or in traffic or, on pressure. I just find that, he's finding that rhythm more and more and more. And the efficacy of that and the amount of space it gives to, skilled players like Caufield and Suzuki is so underrated. Last night, that top line could have had 5 goals.
Yeah.
And most of those plays originated from smart, subtle details in Uri Slafkovsky's game. So I wouldn't touch that right now, but I would say what an interesting line it would be to have Bolduc and Uri Slafkovsky on the same line, and then Ivan Demidov on the top line. That could be a very interesting proposition one day.
I don't disagree. I mean, it's not outlandish to think that in this season we could see something like that and be here to react to it. Denver Habs guy in the Q&A this morning, wondering about depth, right? If there's an injury at the forward position, is Florian Xhekaj the guy that gets called up to fill that spot? Is he next in line to get an opportunity? Obviously, Florian was one of the final cuts once camp broke and the Montreal Canadiens announced their roster. But again, I'm reminded of what Marco had said at the time during training camp. Florian was taking a lot of penalties, was mixing it up all over the place. And I think you were right. And I think it still holds true today. He didn't do anything offensively that made him stand out, that I'm guessing made management sit down in a boardroom and say, damn, this kid cannot be denied. What are we going to do about that? I'd love to see a very strong, like he needs to do what he did last season in a more high profile role with Laval, who did not get off to a good start.
No, they didn't have a very good start. They have another game today. It'll
Exactly.
be very interesting to see how they do. But the Manitoba Moose have always had a pretty strong farm system. Winnipeg's been really good about loading up their AHL roster in general. I know they've had a couple of off seasons here and there. But I think with Florian, like it is a thing where I don't necessarily see them making a call up for him right off the bat. Just because you want, like, if there are injuries and you call him up, normally Veleno would be the one to draw in.
Exactly.
So whoever you're calling up is basically going to be the spare.
Yeah.
Do you really want that to be Florian?
No.
While you break his momentum accordingly. Like we saw this a little bit last year, right? With Owen Beck. Yes, he was used in a top 6 setting because of the injury to Kirby Dach. But when he was sent back to Laval, his momentum, which was really starting to get going, his momentum was gone in the AHL. And it took him a while to find his legs again and to get used to the system and the style. Well, that's kind of what I think they would want to avoid with Florian, despite me thinking that he would be really fun to watch in games like yesterday. So we'll see what comes from it. We'll see what they do. But I think there are other options, other older players that they can call up if they really just want a guy to ride the pine in case there's something that happens.
What's the Reinbacher timeline? I'm forgetting about how far into the 4 weeks are we with this guy and his broken bone in his hand?
Well, we would be entering week 3 on Monday.
Okay, that's okay. Feels like it.
Yeah, he's supposed to miss like between 5 to 7 games. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, let's see how he reacts to that, right? I like this question. Thanks, Trej. The Canadiens plan for the extra roster spot. What are they doing? Cap space. Go ahead, Marco.
Well, I mean, we're gonna actually talk about this during the week in a little bit more detail, but there are definitely some salary cap implications to having a 22-man roster, and there's definitely a strategy and work to, for the first time in half a decade, maximize salary cap accrual so that if an Alex Carrier style trade appears prior to the December trade freeze, well, the Canadiens will be prime, open, and available to be able to pounce on anybody that becomes available down the middle that they feel can help their roster.
No comment. Our first trade, Laine Hutson. Guy's got 1.3 games. I mean, it's not a star for garbage, but
I think the last thing that the Canadiens, like last year it was who was it? Last year RDS was doing, would you do Hutson for Celebrini? Well, here's round 2. Would I make that trade?
Hutson for Celebrini.
No, Hutson for Celebrini is a conversation.
It's
a conversation. I'm
leaning yes.
I would be very surprised if anybody would turn down a future point per game two-way number one center. And again, I appreciate Laine very much. But I think Macklin Celebrini will eventually be one of the top 5 centers at the position in his prime. So there's things to see there. I don't know that Michael Misa is going to be a center at the NHL.
Right.
I think like Will Smith, he may wind up on the wing eventually. And so that's a conversation I've also had with a couple of scouts in that regard, and noted he was used on the wing in junior a whole lot up until his draft year. In fact, he was used on the wing when Owen Beck was acquired by the Saginaw Spirit at the time when they went to the Memorial Cup and won. It was Owen Beck playing center and Michael Misa was on the wing. So it's a little bit of a different beast, but I would never trade a top end defenseman for a winger. And I think the Montreal Canadiens fans in this chat probably have a little bit of PTSD from trading a defenseman for a forward.
Oh my gosh, please. Hendricks, 7 shots for Caufield to score his first goal. He's one of 4 Canadian players that are point a game. Nick Suzuki's got 5 points, all of them assists and no goals through 3 games as he leads the team in scoring in the early blushes. But can Cole Caufield hit 40? Can he hit 50 this season? 40 is an achievable number. 50 is such a magic number in this game. I'd have to double check how many guys scored 50 last season. I'm not going to ask Marco. I'm not going to put him on the spot, but
I think 3.
So like that's as I said, that's a magic number. I for a guy who scored 37, it's not a hot take to think that he could score 3 more goals, right?
I think he could score 40 for sure.
But let's talk about expectations. What do you expect from Cole Caufield? Obviously, I expect at least 30 goals. Clearly, I don't think I can expect 40 though.
I look, my prediction at the beginning of the season was 40 goals, 35 assists, 75 points. And only 150 goal scorer last year. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Leon Draisaitl, 52.
52.
Yep. Everybody else, 45 and less.
Really? So was it the year before where like there was a bunch of 50 guys?
Yeah. The year before you had Sam Reinhart, you had Austin Matthews with 69 goals. Nice. You had Zach Hyman with 54, Nathan McKinnon with 51, and Panarin came ever so close with 49.
Yeah. So, 50, obviously be great, but Zach Bolduc will get 50 before Cole Caufield.
Okay.
The way he's going, right?
He's pushing the point per game narrative all episode long.
Let's go, baby. From Kyle today's, and we're going to have an interesting angle this week on the channel as it relates to the Canadiens cap space. Could we forecast this organization perhaps being one of the first teams to get things going and maximizing? They've got cap space, and Marco will outline the financial side of things as they get closer and what that means for cap space and a push for a playoff spot or to deepen their roster for a hopeful deep run, right? But before we get to that, we've got lots of ground to cover, including Kyle's question about Mike Matheson in a contract year, David Reinbacher, as it all relates to trying to fill the hole of the vaunted 2C. And Kyle, I think both guys, I'm not on the trade Mike Matheson. I think they need Mike Matheson, but I would concentrate my answer more on David Reinbacher. And I can totally see a world that exists where the Canadiens get a more proven guy, and David Reinbacher could be one of the pieces that goes the other way to get that player.
I don't think the Canadiens would do that for a stopgap, from what I've been told.
I'm not a rental player. No,
No,
that I
not
agree
even
with.
not even a guy that they would have for 1 or 2 years. Like this would have to be like Dobson, for example. It would have to
Yeah,
be
right.
an age appropriate player that would be part of the core for the long time. And only at that point would they even consider dangling a guy like Reinbacher. But at the same time, that poses other problems because unlike Matheson, Reinbacher plays a position that the Canadians aren't necessarily deep in at right defense. And so that's where the slope gets slippery. That's why the Canadians drafted him 5th overall because
Yeah,
of the talent. Sure, okay, but also the position scarcity and how rare top end right shot defensemen are. I mean, in the last 5 drafts, how many future top 4, top pair right shot defensemen have been drafted?
sure.
I think I can count on my hands how many have been drafted. That's
Mhm.
lower than the usual average, right? And so that's where the issue comes. Like you look at 2021, you had Brant Clark, right? Everybody else was a lefty. Edvinsson was a lefty. Luke Hughes was a lefty. 2022, you had Simon Nemec. We'll see what happens. It's looking good so far in New Jersey, but David Jiricek is not trending towards being that elite type of defenseman.
Mhm.
2023, you have Reinbacher. Axel Sandin Pellikka looks very interesting. Oliver Bonk looks very interesting. And then you get to 2024, and 2024 is a little bit of a different scenario. Artem Levshunov, my honest opinion, probably won't be the top pair defenseman because Sam Rinzel is the top pair defenseman on the right side for the Chicago Blackhawks, and what a beauty he is. So I've just run down like 4 drafts. There's Zane Parik. There's why am I blanking on his name now? There's Carter Yakimchuk that's in that conversation. But you don't necessarily have a plethora of right shot D like you had between, say, 2015 and 2020. And I think that dip has caused GMs to super value the right shot position to the level that centers are overvalued in this NHL, or in my opinion, properly valued in this NHL, which is very high.
I'm
I don't know that it
sure.
affects the team vibe. I don't know that it affects the team vibe.
I don't know where this, no disrespect, but like, I don't know where this question comes from. Like, they've won 2 of the 3 games. The team they don't look sloppy. It's not like they're lacking pace. I don't see a team that is bothered by headlines and doofuses like Starr and D'Amico talking about Laine Hutson and people writing about Laine Hutson and radio segments around Laine Hutson. Like, I see a team that's fast. I see a team that's deep. They got 4 point a game guys. They had 12 guys on the score sheet in Detroit. They had 10 power play opportunities because they put Chicago in bad spots because Montreal's transition game is very good. I don't see it at all. Maybe it's me, but I just don't.
I don't think the team is affected in any way, shape, or form. Just seeing how they're playing.
Yeah.
You could make a case for Laine himself. That's totally fine. I don't necessarily disagree that this is something that's bothering him, at least off the ice. You want to make the argument on the ice? That's up to interpretation. No, you're fine. You're fine. It's a worthwhile conversation.
It's good, man. Yeah, everyone has their point of view. I get it.
But there's a reason why Laine wanted this done before the season started, is to avoid those kinds of questions, because it's not necessarily the contract that's distracting. It's the idea that the contract is distracting that is distracting. And that is a meta ass thing I just said. But all I'm trying to say is the actual contract not being signed is not necessarily the problem. It's everything that comes with the conversation around it that's distracting. And so that to me is probably where I could see it. But my 2 cents, Laine Hutson's too much of a gamer, too much of a compete animal to really care about it outside of the moment. I think after games, it could be problematic. I don't think it is during games.
Rod Langway, how many points out of a possible 8 are they getting this week? I'll remind you of the breakdown here. Tuesday, home to Seattle. Nashville on Thursday. Rangers and Habs square off at 7 p.m. on a Saturday night. And the 4-game homestand wraps up at home to Buffalo at 7:30. And that takes us into the first 4-game road trip of the season that begins October 22nd at Calgary at 8:30. And you know what's special about that game? You can come preview it and get ready for it at McLean's with D'Amico and Starr. I think the Canadiens
with us.
100%. I believe the Canadiens are going to get 5 out of a possible 8 points. I'm nervous about the Tuesday home opener. I think they've got Nashville. I think they've got Buffalo. There's my 4. And maybe one of those overtime shootout specials against the New York Rangers. So I think they get 5 out of 8 points. That's my prediction.
I was at 5 as well.
Yeah.
Just simply because I think they get Seattle. I think they get Nashville.
You got him against Seattle. Seattle's off to a good little start here. 2-0.
Yeah, but like they've necessitated overtime last night and stuff like that. Like it's just they're playing a very defensive structured team. But when you have the last change like Montreal, Martin St. Louis really does a good job of being able to take advantage of that privilege. What I would say though is Buffalo is the team that scares me. And a lot of people are going to be like, "But it's Buffalo." Have you seen?
Bro, did you see their roster last night?
Yeah, but have you seen the Canadiens' record against even worse rosters than the one that they're icing?
Fair. I mean,
Montreal has a knack for playing down to Buffalo's level whenever they play Buffalo.
But
they have a knack for this.
Man, I freaking hope we're not reacting to that. Like, I see a more mature team here. I see a team that's I'm hoping they don't fall into that trap like they used to, man.
Look, I think that there's significant upside possibilities of 6 out of 8 points. That's the way I would see it. I think there's significant upside possibilities. Could we see 2 overtime losses? Very possible in New York and Buffalo. I do think Nashville is beatable. I think Seattle is beatable, and I think the Rangers are going to be very difficult to play against. I mean, listen, yes, the home opener is going to be electric, and they probably will play very strong as they usually do in the first period. But remember last year's home opener against the Leafs and how Montembeault had to stand on his head? Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Habs will win over Crosby. I love it.
I can't wait for the show where we react to the Canadiens getting Sidney Crosby. That's going to be my favorite show we're ever going to do on YouTube.com.
That the amount of I told you so's you're going to give me are going to be insufferable.
It better happen.
I don't think.
I'm buying both of us jerseys. If Crosby becomes a Canadian,
I can't wear a Habs jersey.
You can wear whatever you want. You don't play for the team. You're on YouTube.com. I'm buying you an 87 Crosby jersey. I'm buying one for myself too.
I'll hang it up for there. I'll hang it up for you over there.
Yeah.
We have any more questions?
Lots of comments. Lots of comments.
Are great.
Yeah. 95 points, ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun
to see. If the Canadiens
make
make the playoffs, they need 95 points minimum. My honest opinion.
I know. I mean, we thought that last year, but they got in. Was it 91 last year? Whatever it was.
Yeah, but I think last year there was a monumental breakdown in the middle of the Eastern Conference standings.
Yeah,
where I think mediocrity forced like the New York Rangers, for example, to slide, the Pittsburgh Penguins to slide, the Buffalo Sabres to perpetually slide. And so, like, I feel like Columbus and Montreal basically had a wide open field to just be a 2-horse race to the end.
But listen,
I don't think that's going to happen again this year.
Like, when you look at the standings so far, like, I really like how the Canadiens have started. Like, it's one thing, you talk the talk and everything else, and you set out goals. And to me, they've hit the goals. Like, they didn't want to be a slow starting team like last year. Boom.
Yeah.
They wanted more grit. Boom. Zachary Bolduc. They wanted depth. Boom. It's all done. And look, when you look around the Eastern Conference, again, everything, in the context of very early goings, like no one has played more than 3 games in the NHL. Here we are on this Sunday morning, right? But Florida, 11 goals for. Boston, 10 goals for. Montreal, 10 goals for. Carolina and New York also with 10. Those are leading the Eastern Conference. And Montreal's right there with 4 points and 2 dubs. When you go to the Western Conference, there are 3 teams in the West with 10 goals. Colorado, Dallas, and Vegas. Like, Montreal is in some fine company, man. They're in some fine company. And that's why I said what I said before. Like, I'd be surprised if they fell into the trap of slumming it with the lesser than teams like they used to,
Yeah. Again, I don't feel like Toronto, yes, but I don't feel like Detroit and Chicago are good barometers for what the Canadiens need to do to make the playoffs. I don't think.
But it was their home openers, and these are fast young teams with a lot to prove, like we saw with the Canadiens.
Home openers for their centennial seasons, both
exactly.
Detroit
and Gibson got pulled.
Yeah, well, The irony with Gibson getting pulled is that his acquisition was made after Steve Yzerman said that they just needed to get a couple of saves and they would be good to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
They didn't get many saves.
No. Hey, Stevie Y's on the clock, no? Like if Bleep goes sideways in Detroit.
I can confirm. One of those teams that may blow it up early, Detroit. Because if Detroit is like bottom of the standings, they did really well against Toronto yesterday. It came back from a 2-0 deficit.
I know.
But if they're below 500, like even I would say below 400, the red alert bells are going to ring in Detroit.
You know who I want on Detroit? I want Dylan Larkin.
I don't
look at you.
You see, like so to me, if that team ever decides to blow it up, I think Dylan Larkin is a more realistic option to trade for than Sidney Crosby.
Yeah,
my 2 cents. But I just don't think they'd ever trade him in the division.
But listen, we're gonna do a video that's gonna come out tomorrow. On Tuesday. Tuesday, we're gonna do a video on Tuesday, and Marco brought another name to the table, a 22-year-old center playing in the Western Conference. And I'm going to leave it at that. If they could get that guy, oh baby. But if it could all be true, right? We'd all be a Lotto 649 winners and we'd be doing this for fun. Okay, we went a little extra overtime today. That's fine. It was a lot of fun today. Did you have fun today, Marco?
Of course I had fun today. It's always fun. The comments are amazing. You guys are awesome.
I know. Larkin over Crosby. Nobody over Crosby. How dare you?
I would take the next 6 years of Larkin over 2 years or a year and a half of Crosby. Yes, I would.
Why do you hurt me like that? Mr. Steve, come introduce yourself, please, at McLean's, 1210 Peel Street, where we're going to be for our live show on October 22nd. Very much looking forward to that. Marco's
we'll also be drawing the tickets for the December 3rd Canadiens game live at McLean's. Yes. So make sure to comment McLean's in the comments here so that we have you all written down, and to like and subscribe so that we know that you're a part of the show, and we will be doing the draw live at McLean's so that you guys know that it isn't rigged in any way, shape, or form.
No, please. I'm too lazy to rig anything. No, doesn't even cross my mind.
I'm kind of in an unfortunate situation. I come from a land where we rig a lot of our sporting culture in Italy.
What are you, a big Juventus fan? You a big Juve guy?
No. I got turned off of Juventus in 2006, so I'm very much an Inter fan.
Nice.
I'm just joking. I'm a Napoli fan.
I love when I was in Napoli, man, dude, how much I had never seen. I mean, obviously I'm aware of the passion fans have for their market, but like in Napoli with Santa Maradona, oh my God, it's a crazy level.
Naples is an insane city on every level. I
loved every second. It was so raw. It was the most real version of the country that I saw when I was there for a couple of weeks. Che bello. Ciao ragazzo, grazie mille, and lots of fun today. We look forward to seeing you at McLean's, and further to that with the tickets that we're going to do. And yes, you have to subscribe to this channel. If you don't subscribe to this channel, we know whether you have or not. Unfortunately, it makes you ineligible to win. Well, I mean, it's very easy to figure out, brother. I mean,
we're watching you.
Oh yeah, it's very easy to figure out. There are rules to this, and we are going to follow the rules. And we've got, let me tell you, don't drive in Napoli. Man, I didn't even want, crossing the street was crazy.
But effing agreed.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God. There are two places in the world, places in the world where I actually had like heart attacks just being in a car driving. Naples, Cairo.
Yes.
Never again. I will walk.
And yes, again, we know that we are going to be giving away gift cards to our friends at Morella Steakhouse, morellasteakhouse.ca, in Ganawage Highway 132. They've noticed what we're doing and they want to support us and they want to feed you. You got to check out morellasteakhouse.ca. No tax on that bill, and phenomenal food and great cigars. It's a great spot to watch all your NFL action with great lounge access. So thank you, everybody. It's been a lot of fun for the last 75 minutes. Thank you so much for spending some of your Sunday with us. And as always, enjoy your family. Happy Thanksgiving if you're celebrating. Make sure you wear elastic waistbands because you're going to stuff yourself today. You want to be comfortable. Marco, thanks as always. Great stuff. And keep it tuned to the channel. We've got our takeaways, our top 3 takeaways from week 1 coming out tomorrow morning. And members of the channel, by the way, get early access to that. It's $2.99 a month. You can cancel anytime. You can become a member of the Starr and D'Amico show, and you get early access to all of our content. We've got Michael Hage conversations coming up this week and some early trade talk. Maybe the Montreal Canadiens can be the first to act here. So we've got all of that coming up this week, including our live shows on Wednesday and Friday and Sunday. She don't stop, baby, and we love it. For Marco D'Amico, I'm Shaun Starr. Thank you for spending some of your Sunday with us, and we'll see you on Monday to get ready for a brand new Habs week. See you, everybody.
Have a good one, everybody.